Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're going to play a game today. We're going to play a game called Real Animal, Fake Animal. And I have Evan and Harrison, the two wildlife brothers here. They run a YouTube channel where they go out and they interact with animals out in their natural environments. They make very educational content. And so I've gotten a challenge for them, which is I have written descriptions of animals, and the animals are either completely mythical, made-up animals that don't exist, or they are a real animal that does exist somewhere in the world, and they could go out and find them and do a video about them someday. We're not going to use any extinct animals, and they're all multicellular. Okay. So all these animals are things that you can see and interact with.
That's good to know, actually.
Yeah,
because
that's
single cellular life is absolutely insane.
Yeah. So the challenge here is, can we distinguish between the fictions that people have made up with, or can nature come up with things that are even stranger than what people can come up with?
All right.
So let's start with this one. This animal has a complex life cycle. Let's start with a single animal making copies of itself, connecting all the copies together, and launching them into the water. Those bundles of copies never separate, and they all start out as female. They produce offspring that are singletons, and those singletons will make copies of themselves. The bundles grow, and once they get large enough, they become males.
When you say the bundles never separate, do you mean throughout those organisms' entire life cycle they never separate, or until they're born, essentially?
They never separate through their entire life cycle.
That changes things.
Yeah.
Because when you said creates copies of itself and gets launched into the water, I first thought parthenogenesis, and it was an amphibian. But now knowing that they don't separate ever,
Right.
I think we have to be talking, if it's real, about a colonial invertebrate. Because I don't know of any vertebrate that would stay together for its entire life cycle.
They all start as females, and then when they get large enough, they become male. There's a lot going on with this particular species.
There is. It's true. The good news is you don't have to identify the particular animal. You just have to say whether it's real or not real.
Okay. All right. There are some crazy invertebrates out there, and parthenogenesis and hermaphroditism are both very real and more frequent than some people would expect in the animal kingdom. I just can't. The part that's throwing me off is stay together for its whole life. Because that sounds like how an ancient culture might have described a creature like a millipede or something, where they saw so many legs they thought it had to be multiple organisms. Unless we're talking about a colonial organism like a Portuguese man of war, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is a real organism.
Okay. I'm going to stir the pot and say fake.
All right. So let's see. So this animal is called a salp.
A salp.
Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, I haven't.
I have not.
Okay, so this is a real animal.
And
and you can see it in the ocean. These are swimming, tube-shaped, and jet-powered. You can see huge lines of them swimming together. They're visibly large. They can be like 30 feet long in a big line together. So the big group that stays together is the clone generation, and they produce a free-swimming generation, which is the singleton generation. Perhaps strangest of all is that salps are in the phylum Chordata. The fact that they're chordates in the phylum Chordata means that they are more closely related to us than we are to octopuses, for example.
That's very interesting.
Man, you got those so fast. I'm trying not to get... I've got this big grin on my face because you're like, it sounds like a colonial invertebrate. I'm like, oh my gosh, They're so good at this. So congratulations, Harrison. You were correct. And Evan, I appreciate you going out on a limb to
Absolutely.
to make the game a little more interesting. Okay, let's move on to our next animal. This animal carries with it at all times 2 other living animals, one in each hand. When facing a threat, it wields the animals for defense or attack. When either of the animals die, it gets a new one, so it always has 1 living animal in each hand.
I have my answer. I have my answer as well. On 3 then? Yep. 3, 2, 1, reel.
It is the crab that uses
Yep.
the anemones,
Anemones.
as boxing gloves.
You are absolutely right. It is. Wow. You two know your animals. This is incredible. So yes, it's the boxer crab. There are several species of crab which put a living sea anemone on each of their front claws. And as described, when a predator approaches, they can punch it with their sea anemones. If one of the sea anemones dies, they can replace it by either stealing one from another crab or by cutting their remaining anemone in half, which then grows into 2 new anemones.
Right. I've always found boxer crabs and decorator crabs and all the crabs that use other organisms for camouflage or defense. I find them fascinating.
That's so cool. Wow. I thought these would be challenging. Okay, maybe this one will be more challenging. This animal eats minerals in the Atacama Desert, the driest non-polar desert in the world. It is nocturnal to avoid desert heat. Interestingly, you can tell what kind of minerals it has been eating because the animal changes color based on the minerals in its food. It is bioluminescent, so it produces light at night, but it can turn off its glow if it senses danger.
Eating minerals as your only form of subsistence, I think, would point towards an invertebrate. Same with bioluminescence. The Atacama makes it interesting because there are native peoples in Chile who could have produced a mythical creature like that. But the Atacama is so inhospitable that I don't know. Usually, mythological animals have some sort of basis in reality. They're based off of something. And I can't think of an organism that would be seen by native peoples in the Atacama to base that off of.
Right.
Changes colors based on the minerals that it's eating is pretty reasonable. That happens with carotenoids from biological structures all the time in birds and things. Bioluminescent as well. I think I have my answer.
I'm reasoning through I think you mentioned it, bro. One of the things that's throwing me off most is the fact that it's found in the Atacama, which is such a difficult place to live.
Yeah, I think I have my answer.
I think I do as well.
All right, on 3?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, fake.
Wow. Okay, so yes, you are correct. It is a fake mythical creature. This is the alicanto. This is a Chilean mythical bird. It eats silver and gold ore, and its feathers change from silvery to golden based on what type of ore it eats. Its wings and eyes glow in the dark. If a miner follows an alicanto, they can discover rich mineral ores. But if the alicanto senses someone following it, it will extinguish its lights and run, or it will just lead them off of a cliff.
Wow. I wonder what species inspired that. Some of the mythology of South America is absolutely fascinating. I have always loved, we are Spanish speakers ourselves, and just the whole culture of South America and the hundreds of native groups have fascinated us for years.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a species that would inspire a myth like that. Maybe one of the New World vultures, but that's fascinating.
Wow. You two are doing a great job at this.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another animal for you. This animal lives in the dense forests of the Hawaiian Islands. It is not found on every island with a dense forest, only on certain islands. It is significant because rather than fleeing from humans as they walked through the forest, it would reveal to canoe builders which trees were the best ones available to make canoes.
Now, that tells me a number of things, but it doesn't give me the answer just yet, because that could be something based off of a myth, an oral tradition passed down of how the first canoes were constructed, but it could very well be based on a real world ecosystem engineer, something that utilizes the trees in that way.
Obviously, honey guides are not native to Hawaii, but the way they got their name was from the behavior where they would just go around and the honey badgers would follow them.
Right.
So it's possible that there's a bird. I'm thinking back to the Birding Hawaii series from a mutual friend of ours, John Jackson, on his channel. And I'm thinking through all of those birds that he showed. And I can't think of one where he told that story. And I know he's big on animal mythology as well. You make a good point that it probably came from a myth, but it could be a real animal,
Right.
that they followed because they inhabited the best trees, for
I
example.
think I have my answer.
I do as well. And I think we're going to say opposite things.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1, real. So we have one real.
One and one. All right. So this animal is a real bird.
Nice.
It is called the elepaio. So it's a real bird. It's an insect-eating bird. And it has a really strange distribution across the Hawaiian Islands that's probably related to the distribution of competing insect-eating birds. Anyway, the native Hawaiians would go into the forest, and this bird would follow them. And if the bird pecked at a fallen tree, it meant the wood was full of burrowing insects and should not be used. So if the bird ignored a fallen tree, then it would be good for canoe material. So there's an ancient Hawaiian proverb that says, the canoe is marked by the elepaio.
Wow.
There you go.
That's really interesting. So it wasn't the trees that it was going to, it was the trees that it wasn't going to. That makes sense.
Yeah.
The reason I said fake is because I was wondering if it was one of those examples like we saw in the previous one where it was based off a real animal, but they had a special name for it that came from an oral tradition. But that's interesting. All right.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just based on mythology. It was like a really practical way to use this animal's behavior to find what they needed.
Absolutely.
All right. We have 3 more.
Okay.
This one was my favorite to write. Okay. This animal is a mobile ecosystem. There are unique species of plants and animals that live only on this animal. There are herbivores, carnivores, and parasites that live together. The animal has channels which collect rainwater to nourish the residents. In return for providing this home, the animal sometimes eats some of the plants which are growing on it.
I thought I knew it until the last bit there about eating the plants that grow on it, because the first thing I thought of was sloths, because sloths have so much biodiversity that lives in their fur, the lichens and the different invertebrates, where you could almost classify it as a little micro ecosystem. Right. But I don't know if sloths ever eat the organisms that grow on its back. So what else? Because the channels, I was thinking sloth hair grows towards their spine because they hang upside down most of the time. Right. So the water will run off. What's tripping me up is there are so many myths where you hear about, the sea turtle carrying an island on its back, that sort of mythology where there's a large animal supporting an entire ecosystem. So many of those myths and stories are running through my mind that are tripping me out. I immediately went turtle as well.
Yeah.
because there's the myth of the turtle who is the world. The channels, I really thought I had it until, because I can't think of an example of a sloth eating its own plant material, because they mostly eat leaves and things, cecropias and stuff. I'm trying to think of other organisms that grow little micro ecosystems. Decorator crabs come to mind. Some turtles.
Could you read the clue one more time?
Yeah, not a problem. This animal is a mobile ecosystem. There are unique species of plants and animals that live only on this animal. There are herbivores, carnivores, and parasites that live together. The animal has channels which collect rainwater to nourish the residents. In return for providing this home, the animal sometimes eats some of the plants which are growing on it.
Another thing that struck me this time around is it's channels that collect rainwater, which means it's a species that lives above ground. So that kind of throws off the sea turtle.
I think it's either sloth or nothing. I think it's either sloth or mythical.
Yeah. I think I have my answer.
I think I do as well.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1, real.
All right.
Oh, okay. We've got a difference between the two of you. Wait, which one did you guess?
I said real.
Okay, Harrison, you guessed it correctly.
All right, there you
Your
go.
first instinct was totally right. It is totally the sloth. The thing that threw you off was whether or not the animal would eat the plants that grew on itself. It has a fairly nutrient-poor diet, but then it can supplement that with its own algae that grows on its own little mobile ecosystem. I was amazed at how quickly you guessed that, though. You're just like, oh, I wonder if it's a sloth. And yeah. As I was trying to play it cool.
Right.
Awesome. Good work. You guys are like the perfect pair for this game because you know so much about so many different animals. I don't think this one is going to fool you for even a second. Okay. This animal lives in small groups with a single reproducing male and female and several non-reproducing males. They defend a small habitat which is fatal to many other animals, but they are safe in this habitat. If the female dies, the reproducing male will become a female and take her place in the group.
All right. 3, 2, 1, real. Clownfish.
Yeah, totally. Okay, but yeah, you guys both got that in like a second. Okay, final animal. Evan, you still have a chance for a tie if you get this one right, and Harrison does not. So, this animal can fly. It is large and strong enough to lift a large prey animal into the air, such as an elephant. Its primary hunting strategy is to swoop down and grab an animal, lifting it up into the air and dropping it back down to the ground. When the prey is killed, the animal lands and eats at its leisure.
I think I know this.
I do as well. I mean, you would have had me if you hadn't presented the prey item of choice.
Yep, definitely. It was a clever misdirect too, if I'm on the right track here.
Because I know 2 animals I could think of right off the top of my head, but I have my answer.
Yep. How about we do this? Let's give whether it's real or fake, and then name the animal.
Okay.
Well, to clarify, you did say
a possible prey item could be an elephant, right?
Yes.
All right. I have my answer.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, fake.
I said real.
An elephant? I mean, we're thinking of a lammergeier.
I'm thinking of a lammergeier, but I'm thinking elephant bone. Because they can pick up the bone of an elephant. That's what they do. Is they'll pick up the bones and then drop them.
Do lammergeiers live where elephants live? Is there a range overlap? Do they get that far in Africa?
That's an excellent question.
I was totally thinking a lot because at first I was thinking like Eurasian eagle owl, which can carry off a small deer.
I was thinking harpy eagle.
Carry
off howler monkeys.
I totally forgot about the bones. I was thinking a full elephant, and I was like, oh, this is some mythical creature from the Serengeti or something. I said fake, but you could be right that we're talking about the bones.
I was curious if by elephant it was a misdirect to get us to think a full elephant, not the bone. But we'll see.
I wish I was that smart. It is actually a full elephant, and the animal is
Ah.
a mythical bird called a roc.
There you
Rock.
go.
So it comes from Arabian mythology. Its flight feathers are 30 feet long.
30
Wow.
feet.
Its eggs are about 15 feet long. And it was said to be able to lift a full-grown elephant and drop it to the ground.
Wow.
No
kidding. It was
I-
the picking up and dropping that made me think of a lammergeier.
I bet they based it off of, especially because it's from Arabian mythology, so that's right in the prime zone for lammergeiers, at least in the western part of their range. That's awesome.
Okay, well, Harrison, congratulations. You were able
Yeah, well
to
done, bro.
correctly identify more real or fake animals. But what I think we'd all learned is that nature can be even more strange than what humans can come up with.
Absolutely. I was going to say that at the beginning, that's one of the tough things about doing a game like this, is that it never fails to amaze me just how many different adaptations nature has devised over the billions of years of, well, I guess not billions, is it? Hundreds of millions
hundreds of millions.
life. Yeah.
For multicellular, yeah, definitely.
Multicellular
definitely.
life, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you too for going out there and interacting with animals and teaching us all about them. So thank
Of
you for
course.
connecting people with nature. You're doing a great job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and thank you for having us. Yeah, there you go.
All right, so in the comments below, let us know how you did on this game. Did you guess all the different animals, real or fake? Were there any that tripped you up? We'd love to hear that. You can subscribe to the Wildlife Brothers by following the link right here. There will also be a link in the description, and you can watch these other videos once you're done. Thanks for stopping by this week to learn what makes life awesome.
Thank you, guys. And
Thank
make
you.
sure to subscribe to Steve as well on BioBush.
Thank you.